Hello, everyone. In recent years, I've, um, you know, come to terms that I'm probably neurodivergent. And today, I want to go over a list of possible signs that may indicate that I am neurodivergent. So let's take a look at them. All right. So this first category is about attention, focus, and executive function. So number one, difficulty sustaining attention on uninteresting tasks. Um, I'd say that's probably true. So I remember, easy example, when I was in the final year of high school, I had this really boring math class. And part of the reason it was so boring wasn't just because of the subject itself, but because of the teacher. He had a monotonous voice and he was speaking incredibly slowly. But even then, I just don't like math for the most part. So most math-based subjects, it was difficult for me to concentrate, and I was just sleeping in class the entire time. And now it's not just math, but there could be other tasks that also makes it difficult for me to focus and concentrate on. Number two, hyper focus on preferred interests. This is definitely true most of the time. Sometimes I enjoy binge watching my favorite TV shows and stuff like that, or I could be binge watching some really cool video games occasionally, and I especially like to be hyper focused when it's going to help me kind of establish this flow state. I like to remain in flow. It just feels really good. It's really soothing. Everything feels like it's clicking. It's relaxing. It's just a really nice feeling to have. Number three, trouble starting tasks. Task initiation issues, basically. All the time. It's pretty common. Not gonna lie. So a good example could be related to homework when I used to, go to school. A probably more pertinent example of this is doing the chores. So let's say I have a weekend, it's a Saturday or something, and I want to take care of all the chores I haven't done in the week. That can kind of, throw me off. Okay, should I just wash the dishes first? Should I go to the bathroom and, start cleaning the toilet and shower? Or should I start vacuuming the floor, the carpet? Sometimes I have a bit of back and forth when it comes to really menial tasks like these. What else? And the same thing can happen when it comes to maybe working on a project. So it can be an issue sometimes. All right, so procrastination despite wanting to act on it. Yeah, again, super common. So maybe there's something important I need to do. Maybe I need to work on a project. And I want to do it. I know it's good for me, something I should be doing, but I just delay for whatever reason. Maybe just the thought of it being really long could make me feel a little bit frustrated and anxious. Or maybe I'm overthinking about how I want to approach it, something like that. So, yeah, that happens quite a bit. Frequently losing items. Um, Sometimes. So, I would say, interestingly, I don't experience this as much as my mom or other people I know in my life. But it does happen at times. So it usually happens with small items. So, keys, house keys, wallet, smartphone, right? These kind of smaller items that you may be using on a daily basis. So it does happen sometimes, but not all the time. I wouldn't say like every single day or every single week or anything like that. And when it does happen, it's usually when I'm feeling a lot of stress that week, obviously. Okay. Now, poor time awareness or time blindness, aka time blindness. Yeah, I experienced that quite a bit. I think sometimes it's related to that flow state. If I'm in the middle of something, I'm really enjoying it. Maybe I'm playing guitar. Maybe I'm playing video games or something. During those kinds of moments, it's not surprising to see that I do experience a bit of time blindness or have some poor time awareness. And it can happen with just random things like watching, YouTube videos all day long. But I try my best to work on it. I try to control it because, obviously it wastes time. Difficulty planning or organizing. Yes, and I'd say this has more to do with what to prioritize. So it can be tricky sometimes for me. So during those moments, it can be a little bit challenging to, figure out what to do in what order, how to arrange things, and that can waste a bit of time. Forgetting instructions easily. Depends, but it depends what those instructions are about. So you would have to, explain what you mean by that, but not every kind of instruction, but it just really depends, I guess. Trouble switching between tasks. Yeah, happens quite a bit. So maybe I'm watching one video, it's kind of long, like 45 minutes, an hour or something. And then 12 minutes in, I just switch to another video or another website or something like that. But it could actually happen when it comes to off-screen tasks as well. So maybe I'm working on some kind of chore and then I leave it for something else. So maybe I started vacuum cleaning or something and I did one of the rooms but I haven't done the other rooms, and then suddenly I went to wash the dishes or something. Feeling overwhelmed by multi-step processes. This one's definitely true. So when it comes to, say, washing dishes, this is something I struggle with a lot. And you could kind of explain to me the instructions in many different ways. I know to some extent people have their own way of doing it, but it really doesn't matter. It's just something I'm not good at, and something I struggle doing, to be honest. I do it in a weird way, and I just don't like, there's just too many steps involved here. It's just too difficult compared to something like washing your hands, obviously. It can also happen with another kind of common task like cooking or preparing some kind of specific meal. So it's not an issue when it comes to cooking every single kind of meal, obviously, but there are some where it's just too much. And it's just like, overwhelming me, and I'm gonna mess up, the entire processes and maybe skip steps and things like that, things of that nature. So it does happen. Difficulty prioritizing. This is similar to something we answered earlier on. I already mentioned that. So yeah, it's pretty normal. Maybe, and I think that's because in my mind, I'm asking myself, does it make sense to do tasks that take less time or do the tasks that take longer? And sometimes I have other questions that, occur to me as well. Like maybe it's like, okay, should I walk my dog right now? Or should I do it in the afternoon or evening? Like what makes more sense? Do I have the energy? Is it easier to do a indoor task first before doing that? Or is it better if I do this first and then come to my indoor task? So it depends. Depends on my mood, depends on the weather, could depend on, other kinds of factors as well. All right. Impulsivity in decisions or speech. Uh, yeah, it happens. Um, Not all the time, but it could happen. But I'd say um, I do it mostly or mainly to kind of break the tension. Um, I it's just a good feeling sometimes. And like if I'm on the phone with someone or if I'm speaking to someone, I might throw in a joke or make a weird noise or something, just to kind of break apart that consistency because it's kind of sometimes annoying. But in decisions, it can happen. Like maybe when it comes to like investing or something like that, maybe I didn't do enough research and I just I FOMO'd into something, right? Or I rushed to make that decision because I was just naturally feeling impulsive if it feels good or something. Interrupting others unintentionally. Sorry. This is one I came across a lot on the internet. People talk about it quite a bit. But to be perfectly honest with you, you'd think I would, but I have really good control over this issue. So it happens only in rare cases, if it's really accidental. But I usually don't do it intentionally either, but unintentionally, like accidentally, no. It doesn't happen with me much at all. It's something I notice a little bit more with some of my close peers, as well as my father. So that's kind of an interesting one. Trouble completing task once started. Yeah, it can happen anytime. Doesn't happen all the time, but it happens quite a bit. And I think it depends on how long it takes to complete the given task. Like, let's say I'm planning to write a book or something, and later on I want to convert it into PDF or an ebook or something like that. Well, in that kind of situation, it's a time-consuming process, and yeah, I might give up on that. Another example is maybe I'm playing a video game, like an RPG or something, and it's like 40, 50, 60 hours long in totality. And maybe I'm a quarter in the game or halfway through, and it starts, feeling boring or routine or something. And so in that case, I might switch to a different game or some kind of different activity. And interestingly, in recent times, I would say this happens to me quite a bit when it comes to YouTube videos. So if I'm watching longer clips, especially something that's like 20, 30 minutes long or something, maybe 5, 10 minutes in, I might suddenly switch to a different video that's a lot shorter. It's just like 5, 7 minutes long total. I'll finish that one off and then come back to the original one I was watching. Mental fatigue from routine tasks. Uh, I think so, all the time. I kind of notice this quite a bit when it comes to washing dishes. I just don't like doing that task. It just drives me crazy sometimes. But it applies to other kind of routine tasks as well, like cooking, cleaning, chores in general, household responsibilities. Okay, so let's talk about like social communication and interaction signs. Difficulty reading social cues. Mm, no, I don't think so. I think for me it's quite simple in most cases. I haven't really noticed this, so no. Struggling with small talk. I don't struggle with small talk, but I can tell you I simply don't like it. It's just not my thing. I get sick and tired of people just talking about the weather or, anything else that's pretty much trivial. It's just like a waste of time and it goes nowhere, right, in most cases. And yeah, it just wastes my time and energy. It's something I don't like. I know how to do it, and I'm comfortable doing it if I need to, but it's something I don't have any trouble doing. It's just something I don't like. Preferring deep or structured conversations? Why not? I do. And something that's kind of remarkable or interesting about my situation is that most of my peers are the same way. They're the same exact way. They're not, most of them are not neurodivergent at all. They're usually neurotypical people, with the exception of a few of them. But regardless, most of us enjoy deeper structured conversations. And it's just, I think, more of a personality thing than me being neurodivergent. And it could be about all kinds of issues like politics, economy, business, self-improvement, anything like dogs, dog breeds, experiences related to food, experiences related to family, relationships, anything really. Taking language very literally. No, thank goodness I'm not that kind of person. And that's actually a pet peeve of mine. I get very upset when I see people take things like word for word and, kind of lose control over words. So I'm kind of open-minded when it comes to this, and I take it easy. It's not a big deal. Missing sarcasm or irony. I could see why this would kind of be an issue for some neurodivergent individuals. But for me, I have no trouble understanding sarcasm or irony. It's something kind of familiar. Sometimes it could be enjoyable or interesting, but I have mixed feelings about it, but I understand them. Feeling out of sync socially, sometimes. So it depends what the social situation really is about. A case in point. One reason I don't really like attending weddings or certain kinds of parties is because people are having these long conversations about things that are really boring to me. Perfect example, like oftentimes when I go to parties, for weddings even, or any kind of like large, massive social gathering and get-togethers, there tends to be this kind of like conversation about cars or car models. And to be quite frank, I find it like kind of empty, stupid, ridiculous. I'm just not into it. I could see why some people are interested in just blabbering about cars. It's something that's a hobby for some people. It's an interest for some folks, but it's something that's incredibly boring for me, incredibly dull. Yeah, and so in that kind of situation, I would probably feel out of sync, and I would just be dead silent, dead quiet, wait for that topic to finish, and hopefully we can move on to something else. Difficulty maintaining eye contact or overcompensating. Really interesting one for me. So I'd say maybe before the age of puberty. For me, that would be before age 10, at least in my experience. Or maybe before age 12. I'm not exactly sure, but I was a child at the time. I was a little kid, and anytime I would speak with strangers or particular adults in my life, like my aunts, uncles, teachers, maybe neighbors, people outside of my parents, I would say for the most part, I wouldn't make consistent eye contact with them. I don't necessarily think it was because I was a shy boy or anything like that. I did experience anxiety to some extent, but I would say it felt more like a reflex. Now, I don't know what most neurodivergents have to say about this issue. I've seen it brought up quite a bit, But for me, it was more like a reflex at the time. It would just automatically happen, you know? And I had no control over it. There wasn't much I could do about it. Um, but ironically, interestingly, when I had to, you know, let's say recite poem in front of classmates in the second, third grade or something like that, it was slightly less of an issue. I made a little bit of eye contact here and there, but it wasn't as bad as a one-to-one conversation with some random adults in my life. But I did notice, never mind. Okay, next one, rehearsing conversations in advance. I hear some people doing this quite a bit. I'm not sure about the reason. I think they are worried that people will realize that they can't speak well at all. They're not a natural conversationalist, and maybe they're afraid people will laugh at them or notice that they're different, right? And I could see why that could be a common issue for, neurodivergent folks. But for me, interestingly, I've never done this. Never done this at all. At all. The only thing I've ever rehearsed in my life is like something that had to do with like a school project or a school assignment, like rehearsing poetry or something like that. But not conversations. For me, this is kind of awkward, strange, weird. It just doesn't make any sense. I like to be myself. I have great self-esteem in this regard when it comes to my conversation style, speaking skills. I'm really confident in it, about it. And I don't care if I mess up in any way, if I stutter, if I have awkward pauses. It just doesn't matter. This isn't something I do at all. Anxiety around social situations. Yes, of course. I would say when it comes to public speech, or if you have to like speak in front of a large group of people, especially if it's something related to an assignment or something like Toastmasters or something, I would definitely feel it to some extent. There's no doubt about that. But when it comes to other kinds of situations, like let's say when I'm around friends, making new friendships, making new relationships, dating, things of that nature, no, it's not an issue. Like let's say I'm going to the gym to sign up for lessons and I'm going to be introduced to a new trainer or something. And let's say it's like a one-to-one situation. It's not going to be a problem for me at all. It's totally fine. Or visiting a doctor or something like that. Talking at length about favorite topics. Yeah, it does happen, but I would say I don't talk to length about favorite topics and issues with friends or people in real life as much as I used to, maybe when I was a child. However, that said, as an adult, I tend to do this when it comes to like internet forums, like a forum about, like let's say it's about tennis or something, one of my favorite sports. Or let's say another topic that's like related to video games or something, or movies, I don't know, like genres. So when it comes to internet forums or like something like Reddit, I tend to do that quite a bit, quite frequently. I think it just, makes me feel happier. It gives me a little bit of a rush or relief. Yeah, it's a good feeling. Well, I don't like to do that with friends so much because I feel like I'm just eating their mind and just boring them to death. Let's see. Trouble knowing when to speak in groups. No, surprisingly, I don't face this issue, and I've never experienced any problems with this at all, as far as I can tell. So when it comes to turn taking, just conversations involving group dynamics, I'm usually fine. I'm usually okay. Preference for solitude or small groups? Typically, yes, because most of the time when it comes to events involving larger groups, I feel a little bit of fatigue. I'm more of an introvert naturally. I like to do things alone most of the time. I also enjoy to have a peace of mind, so I do appreciate the solitude and isolation. But I don't mind doing some basic activities like playing basketball with a small group of friends or something like that. That's okay. That's totally fine. Or maybe I'm traveling with, some people somewhere. That's okay. But if it's like a large group of people, I think it does get tiring. And that's why I don't like parties, weddings, large get-togethers in general. It does feel draining, to be honest. Masking or camouflaging behavior. This is a hot topic. It's a common one. Um, Maybe sometimes. I don't have difficulty masking, but I I wouldn't say it drives me nuts, but it's just something I don't like to do, obviously. And a lot of neurodivergent people, are not fond of this because you feel like you're a little bit outside of your comfort zone, interest zone, and you're hiding your true self, your true attitude, personality, behavior, and it can be really uncomfortable at times. I don't think I struggle with this as much as others, but it is annoying. It can be annoying because you don't want to offend someone, or maybe they notice there's something different about you, and yeah, that's a common feeling. Feeling exhausted after socializing. Yeah, sometimes. It depends, like what we're socializing about. So if it's something related to interesting topics, or if I'm socializing with people who are good friends, I feel a little bit less exhausted. But if I do feel a little bit exhausted after socializing today, I think it has more to do with age, not me being neurodivergent. Misinterpreting tone or intent. No, just like sarcasm and irony and body language, body gestures, jokes, inside jokes, I usually don't have any issues when it comes to this kind of understanding. So I'm kind of strong when it comes to this ability. So no, not an issue for me. Now let's talk about like sensory processing differences, and this is one that's really big. So sensitivity to loud noises. I would say in recent times this is true. The one that really drives me nuts is the sound of the doorbell ringing. It's just crazy annoying. I can't stand it at all. And you tell people to knock, or you have like a no soliciting sign. You just want people to like piss off, not bother you. And I can't stand like door to door salespeople. I just won't even answer the door anymore. So on rare occasions, I might like, what the heck's your problem? Like, what do you want? Like I'm resting. Can't you see the sign? Sometimes I'll, kind of snap at them in a polite way. But in most cases, I won't even like answer the door. I'll just have my dog bark, for a good 10 minutes at them. Television noise. It wasn't an issue in the past, but in recent times, if it's a little too loud, I'll lower it. And it's something, I don't like. And I especially don't like if I hear this from neighbors, like, maybe they have like a surround sound system or something. That's kind of annoying. And what else about loud noises? That's actually one of the reasons why I prefer watching movies at home, actually. I don't visit or frequent the cinema that often. I'm just not a fan of like loud environments like that. I used to go to rock and metal concerts when I was younger, like when I was a teenager. But, over time you kind of get tired of it. So let's see. Sensitivity to bright lights. This is something, again, I've noticed more recently. And I have this kind of special overhead light for my monitor, my computer monitor. So I don't have to turn on the house lights, in the living room. Sometimes it just feels too bright. So I prefer a little bit more dimmer. Discomfort with certain textures, clothes, food. For the most part, it's not an issue for me. Maybe it was a little bit in the past, but I can't think of like a good concrete example when it comes to this. So no, for the most part, it doesn't apply to me. Strong reactions to smells. So this is kind of similar, but you're not touching something, you're smelling something. It could happen, but I would say it's still rare. But the one situation where it did cause major problems was when I noticed the smell of eggs. So when I was a child, I would feel incredibly nauseous when it came to the smell of eggs. And my family, from my sister to my father to my mother, they loved eating eggs for breakfast sometimes. And I couldn't stand it. I would just stay in my room or take breakfast to my room, stick to my cereal or waffles or oatmeal, whatever else I was having. And I tried to avoid it because it did make me feel like I wanted to puke or something or vomit. Easily overwhelmed in busy environments. A little bit, but I would say the issue is not so much feeling overwhelmed. I think it's more like a worry of safety. Because when you're in an environment that's really crowded, really busy, there's always a possibility that there could be pickpockets or bad elements there, and you might lose something. So for that reason, I wouldn't say I would never ever go to busy environments, and I'm not always overwhelmed by them, but they're not places I would like intentionally visit frequently. I could put it that way, just for safety reasons. Seeking sensory input, like touching objects, right? Maybe, but it's not something I notice too much. I might do it, but not that often. So it's not, I don't know. It's not something I can really relate to too much. Enjoyment of repetitive, sensory experiences. I think I would say yes. So I do have issues with stimming, and like a good example, if I'm working on some kind of project behind my computer screen, I might be shaking my feet or something, or fidgeting, or I might listen to the same song, the same track over and over again for a good 10, 12, 15 minutes sometimes. It just gives me like a soothing feeling sometimes. So yeah, that does apply to me. Difficulty filtering background noise. Sometimes it's an issue. I'm more sensitive to it though when the volume's loud. Yeah, so just a nuance there. Pain or discomfort from minor stimuli? No, I don't think this applies to me. Preference for specific sensory environments? Let me take a look at my notes. I don't remember this one. No. That is true, now that I think of it. So when it comes to at least my living environment, and which is currently my work environment as well, I don't like a bunch of stuff like hanging on the walls, like posters, paintings, things of that nature. Even, I don't know, maybe calendars, but I have that on my fridge, so it's not a big deal. But the funny thing is that I don't even use it. I don't even look at it. I don't even pay attention to it. But yeah, I don't like things hanging on the wall, and I don't like, too much furniture around. So just a little bit. I'm more of a minimalist. I feel like when the environment caters to minimalism, I can think more clearly. I'm more relaxed. I'm less stressed out. It just feels soothing to some extent. and I could focus on things way better. Difficulty filtering background noise. Oh, sorry, my bad. We already did that one. Okay, so what about like repetitive behaviors and routines? So strong need for routine, for the most part, yes. When I have like some kind of schedule or routine, you know, I can automatically predict how the rest of my day is going to unwind, and this just saves my mental energy from having to, constantly plan on the go. So yes, this definitely does play a big role in my life. I do like routine. Like I'll try my best to walk my dog at certain hours of the day. I'll try to, have breakfast, lunch, and dinner at, specific times. Not necessarily because of, digestive related reasons, but it just saves the stress from thinking and planning too much about it. What else? And it also applies to me when it comes to, um, let's say, hobbies as well. I'll try to have a specific hour for that. Uh, Distress at unexpected changes. Yes, this applies to me a lot, all the time, I would say. So when it comes to moving from one place to another, like changing accommodations, it's something I don't like for the most part. Even if it's like for the better, just there's some kind of stress when it comes to moving. And I do experience that when it comes to vacations and travels as well, because my entire environment just suddenly changes and I have to adapt myself to it. And sometimes that can be a little bit stressful, overwhelming, uncomfortable, you know. The other kind of change I would say drives me nuts, and this one's actually a pet peeve of mine, is when my parents plan to visit me without giving me a heads up. I can't stand that because maybe I haven't done the chores, maybe the place is dirty, and I don't have time to prepare for it. And if they arrive and they see that the entire place is like mess, there's objects all over my table, over my desk, they might complain about it. They might highlight that, and that just gives me unneeded negative energy. So it's something I don't like. And what else? Can't remember. But yeah, those are a couple of them. But there's more, I'm sure. Repetitive movements like stimming, we already talked about that earlier. Yes, it's something I do quite a bit. Repeating words or phrases. I do this quite a bit, but I think I sometimes associate it more with my personality. I don't know if it really should count as neurodivergence unless you do it a lot, right? Like every single hour, every single minute or something. But I'm not that repetitive, but I do repeat words or phrases every day. Preference for sameness in daily habits. Yeah, for the most part, I prefer that things are routine. So yeah, that's just how I am. Collecting or categorizing objects. I did this a little bit more when I was younger. I remember I had the video game Pokemon Silver. I didn't have Pokemon Red or Blue at the time, and that was when I was in fourth grade. But the year after, when I was around the fifth grade, 11 years old, I was able to buy like my first Pokemon game, and I received it as a birthday gift or something, and that was fun. I love collecting, those Pocket Monsters. And around the same period of time, I did collect like video games and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh cards. So I did like that. It gave me pleasure. It gave me a little bit of a dopamine rush as well, a feeling of novelty and just good feeling overall. I'm not sure what it was. But nowadays, I don't do this intentionally. I actually suffer from a different issue, and that's more like hoarding sometimes. Not new, not newspapers or anything like that, but just maybe when it comes to like just different kinds of electronics and stuff like that. Rigid thinking patterns. Um, Sometimes, yeah, sometimes like I might have like black and white thinking, um, and maybe, uh, but I try to have a flexible mindset as well, so I can just avoid conflict. So I'm not like I don't apply rigid thinking patterns to every single thing in my life, just certain things. Difficulty adapting to change. For the most part, yes. It's just the way it is. Anytime there's at least significant change in my life, it can affect my mood, my well-being, my mental health, emotions. Um, you know, it's just I prefer things to be more or less the same or routine, predictable. Creating detailed personal systems. I think to some extent, it's true. Like when it comes to money, like saving money or investing money, I try to dollar cost average, right? You've heard the term DCA. But sometimes I'm sloppy. I don't do it every month. Um, or when it comes to my health, I'll try to exercise, around the same time. Maybe write plans related to my exercise routine. Uh, what's something I'll probably be doing when it comes to content creation, because this YouTube channel is going to be something that's kind of important to me at this stage of my life, and I'll probably be creating like a system for that. Taking notes on things that I should do, shouldn't do. Comfort and predictability. Yes, like I said, I'm kind of a routine guy for the most part, so I like to know what's going to happen next. I don't like to have too many surprises in the day or do things in an unpredictable fashion, because it just takes up like a significant amount of mental energy from you, for me in my case, right? And it just stresses me out. So I'd rather know what's going on, what's going to happen next. And it helps me sleep better at night as well. But if I'm just doing random things at random times in random order, it can sometimes, add a little too much stress in my life. Now, let's talk about thinking style and cognition. So, intense focus on specific interest. Yes, I think for the most part, that's probably true. And there could be maybe two reasons for that. First and foremost, it just saves me time. I don't like to have like a million interests. I just like to focus on a few of them, a few hobbies, whatever, and just stick to them so I can, rehearse them, practice them, take part in them, maybe learn something from them, right? This could be anything from playing a video game, playing a musical instrument like guitar. But I don't like to have like a million new interests or different interests. I just don't have like enough time in the day for everything. Deep knowledge in niche areas. Um, I'm not sure about deep knowledge. I have knowledge in niche areas, but I don't know about deep. But I'll be honest with you, I feel like I have uh, some kind of interesting insight when it comes to issues related to neurodivergence and mental health, and I'll be sharing that quite a bit in this channel. I don't know if it's deep knowledge. Maybe people like have similar ideas, but we'll see. Pattern recognition strengths. Sometimes. So, like, let's say I'm in a crowded environment. There's like a bunch of strangers there. Like we're in the city center or square or something. And let's say, there's like a family member or a good friend, someone I recognize in that crowd, right? In that kind of situation, I would be able to pick up on that. I would notice them right away. Or let's say there's like a snake that's slithering in, verdant grass, just bright green grass. And you would think that camouflage would make it kind of a challenge to see, right? I would still be able to spot that snake. So when it comes to certain kinds of patterns, I can pick up on them like right away. But maybe when it comes to something like coding or patterns related to mathematics, I'm not that strong, in that regard. But when it comes to like, let's say English grammar or, language syntax, a bit better, I would say. Like I would say like, hey, this guy is making a lot of mistakes when it comes to, articles, prepositions. I could kind of pick up on like linguistic patterns. Creative or unconventional thinking, yeah, for the most part, I like to think outside the box. If there's different ways of solving something or figuring things out, I could do that. I could apply it. So when it comes to some kind of problem or question that's really open, I could address it, I could tackle it in so many different ways. It's not a problem with me. So in that aspect, I am quite creative, and I'm good when it comes to critical thinking related issues as well. So not everything's just about like common sense, basic, information or approaches. Black and white thinking, this is kind of similar to rigid thinking that we spoke about some minutes ago. So yes, sometimes, but not always. And that's because like, I don't know. Sometimes you feel like you have a lot of knowledge and information about particular issues in life, and you have confirmation of them or something like that, proof of them, evidence, or you see kind of like your assumption or view of something is kind of backed up. So when it comes to those kinds of particular topics and issues, I might, exhibit a degree of black and white thinking, but not always. You still should be, open-minded when it comes to certain matters, but it really depends. Difficulty with abstract concepts for some. No, for the most part, I don't think so. So when it comes to stuff like cause and effect situations, expressions, idioms, proverbs, some really tricky jokes, I would be able to understand most of it. It's not a problem for me. It's not an issue. Over analyzing situations, I don't do that that often. I try to take it easy in that regard. So whatever happens, happens. So yeah, I don't. I try not to let it bother me. I accept it as it is. A strong attention to detail, yes, for the most part, that's true. It could be about a lot of different things. So when it comes to, let's say, an assignment, a project, homework, when I was in grade school, I gave it my all. I was good in that regard. I pay attention to directions, usually carefully for the most part. I try to do a good job. Trouble seeing the big picture? No. I understand there's a lot of people, neurotypicals, neurodivergents alike, that do struggle with this. But for me, in most cases, in most scenarios, it's totally fine. I'm able to pick up on it most of the time. Unique problem-solving approaches. Yeah, I might apply like trial and error, to reach the result. I might apply something like 6 thinking hats. So you're kind of approaching things from different angles. You're using like emotional intelligence, logical thinking, creative mind, I'll do stuff like that sometimes. And I find it really helpful. It just gives you a lot of different kind of diverse information. Emotional regulation. Okay, so intense emotional reactions. I think it's in rare moments. So if something happens that's incredibly offensive, or someone's really trying to dig deep under my skin, I might snap. I might yell or scream at them or curse them out. It's not common though. It's rare, but they're really specific situations and scenarios. So where it's kind of like those moments where the person has it coming kind of thing. So for the most part though, I try to control myself. I don't like I don't cry when I watch a sad movie. That's rare. It can happen, but like maybe 1 out of 100 tragic movies or something. So it's not that common. But happiness, like anything that's kind of positive, I'll show it a little bit more. Maybe I'm watching sports and I'm rooting or cheering for my favorite team or favorite player. I'll show it more. I'll say something, directed at the TV. So it depends. Difficulty calming down once upset. It depends, like calming down in what way, but sometimes, but not always. Emotional sensitivity. I don't know. I mean, for the most part, I'm not that emotional sensitive compared to many people in general. Mood swings. Yeah, I do experience them. Like if something terrible happens in the week, I'll probably show it in one way or another. But it doesn't involve anything crazy like violence or something. Difficulty identifying emotions. No, this isn't something I struggle with. In most situations, I'm pretty fine when it comes to recognizing emotional patterns. Strong sense of justice or fairness. I do sense justice or fairness. I do have like some kind of understanding of what it should be about, but it's not something I'm going to like waste a lot of time on. It's not something I'm, going to prioritize over everything else in my life. It's something I think that's important in life, that justice does exist, fairness does exist, but I don't dwell on these kind of matters forever, maybe in temporary situations. But it is a topic that is important. Frustration with minor disruptions, no, not really. Anxiety or chronic stress, yes, unfortunately, it's something big, plays a significant role in my life. And, my anxiety could stem from all kinds of things. Maybe like family related problems, arguments, right? That's now more of a thing in the past. It's not something that's as bad as it used to be. But nowadays, I would say most of the anxiety or chronic stress I experience is from like fake news, stupid things that are mentioned in the media and the news, especially Western media. Terrible politicians making terrible decisions. So these things can subconsciously affect me. But I'd say a great deal of anxiety and stress, and stupid people too, of course. I'm not gonna lie. I see so many crazy things happening on social media, but even real life sometimes. But I'd say the thing that's making me feel the most anxious or stressing me out the most is just like the economy, issues related to unemployment, things of that nature. Because I think it's something extremely important. I see it's like really affecting millions of people. Burnout from overstimulation. I think that's natural. like let's say you have a loud neighbor and they're blasting their surround sound. It's gonna drive you nuts, obviously. Or I could say, like, if I'm behind screens for, 8, 10, 12 hours a day, it's not healthy, it's not good, so it can lead to burnout. Rejection sensitivity, if no, I don't think so. So, like, let's say somebody doesn't want to be friends with me anymore, or they don't want to remain in contact with me for whatever reason. I don't care. Life moves on, you know. Or let's say, I kind of see this every now and then, where some guy on the internet is complaining that, I can't get a girlfriend. Like, nobody wants to be with me. Like, I feel miserable deep inside. And yeah, it could be a shitty, terrible feeling. I'm not gonna lie. But for me, like, it's not a big deal. Rejections are just a part of life. You get rejected when it comes to job applications all the time, right? You don't get the job that you desire or you think you desire. So it's just part of life. It does suck, but it's not something that significantly affects me compared to other issues. Let's talk about motor skills and physical traits. So clumsiness or poor coordination. Uh, I mean, it could happen, but like, you drop your phone or something, you drop something, anything, or maybe you accidentally stub your toe or something. It does happen, but not that frequently. I think it just happens at a normal rate, and I usually have good control, tight control for the most part. I don't drop like food on the ground, or like, my mug or something. I'm kind of careful in that regard. Difficulty with fine motor tasks, like handwriting. It depends on the motor task, but it's kind of interesting that they have handwriting as an example here, because that's something that I'm terrible at. So, I have awful handwriting. Like, a lot of people cannot read my handwriting. Sometimes when I'm scribbling, sometimes I can't read my own handwriting sometimes. Not always, but it does happen. So that's something I've always struggled with in my life. That's why I prefer typing information instead. And I'm an excellent typer. I can type like 140 words per minute on average. Restlessness or fidgeting. Yeah, it can happen. It's just part of me. It's not good, but it's something I'm working on. Unusual posture or gait. Yeah, sometimes I sit awkwardly. Like, maybe my back isn't that straight. I'm crouching or something. Or maybe leaning on my neck and things like that. So, or when I'm sleeping, sometimes I'm on my belly, or I'm crooked for whatever reason. I'm sitting on my arm and then my arm falls asleep. But yeah, I do struggle with that sometimes. Difficulty sitting still, sometimes, yeah. Repetitive physical movements, no, not always. Slower, awkward movement patterns, not really. A strong or weak muscle tone differences, this one I haven't noticed at all. I think I'm totally fine. It's kind of a weird point. Learning and language. Uneven skill profiles. So let's say you're strong in some areas, weak in some others. Yeah, clearly. So for the most part in my life, I struggled when it came to mathematics. It was a subject I wasn't really good at. There were 1 or 2 years in my life where I was okay, like in the 4th grade, where I placed first in my class when it came to like multiplication, division. That's what we were learning that year, and I did well. I did amazing. I was on top of my class. It was just a class of like 25, 30 students. Or in college, I had a statistics class. I did get an A in that. I think those 2 years, I did well in math. But apart from those 2 years, random years, like, I struggled with math for most of my life. I was like a C student for the most part. But when it came to English or anything that involved reading, for the most part, I was proficient. Uh, Difficulty with reading or writing, dyslexia traits, no, not really. I'm okay. I'm not perfect, but I'm all right. Struggles with math concepts, dyscalculia traits. Uh, there was just one phase in my life. It was very brief. I think I was in the first grade in my first elementary school, and teacher was explaining, I think, addition. It was very basic addition, like 2 plus 2 equals 4, 5 plus 7, equals 12 or something like that. She was like writing like 10, 12 problems on the board, and I think I was spacing out or something, but I had no idea what the heck was going on. I didn't even know what math was. So like when we had this in-class assignment, and maybe we had to do the rest of it for homework, I don't recall anymore. I would just write random digits after the equal sign. So like 2 plus 2 equals 5. 5 plus 7 equals 31 or something. I would just make things up. And I think, I'm not sure that had anything to do with dyscalculia. I doubt it. I think it had more to do with the fact that I had no idea what the heck was going on at that time. Like math was just an unfamiliar language. I was never tested on it, so it was just something abstract for that brief period of time. But then it just went away. Everything was fine. Advanced vocab in specific areas. I guess so. I don't know if that's from reading or being neurodivergent, but I think I have excellent command in many fields, many areas. Delayed or atypical speech patterns. Sometimes I might mumble, stutter. So there are disruptions here and there. I think a lot of people have that though. So it depends. But interestingly, I don't use too many filler words like many Americans do. Like, or like something we use quite a bit in California. So I don't use filler words that much, interestingly. Difficulty following verbal instructions. No, for the most part, I think I'm okay. I'm not perfect, but I'm fine. Preference for visual learning. Yes, I mean, there's a reason I wear glasses. It's not just poor eyesight, but I do like to read things. But listening compared to visual learning is a little bit harder. Trouble processing spoken languages quickly. I'd say trouble processing foreign languages quickly. So even if I study like a new language or something, like let's say Spanish or Russian or Chinese, whatever, I don't. But if I did, it doesn't matter like how fast that language is, whether it's a fast language, slow language. It's something I'm not going to process that quickly most of the time. But when it comes to English, no, it's totally fine. Literal interpretation of instructions. I might interpret it that way, but it's just kind of a weird point. I'm not looking at things word for word. I'm just trying to understand, what it's trying to convey. So I don't think it's an issue. Now, daily life and habits. Okay, we're almost done here. Irregular sleep patterns. Yeah, sometimes I do experience bouts of insomnia. Sometimes I go to bed a little late, maybe 2 a.m. in the middle of the night or something. I'm constantly checking my phone sometimes. It's not good. But they do happen every now and then. Not every night, but some nights. Difficulty maintaining routines or over-reliance on them. Yeah. I don't do my chores consistently. And that's something I'm really working on. Some days it's fine. Some days, there are moments where I haven't done them in a week or 2 weeks. Forgetting basic self-care tasks. I'm a little bit better in this regard. So when it comes to things like brushing your teeth, taking showers, I'm really consistent with that. Really routine, really consistent with it. I try not to skip it because I'm worried about my health. I don't want something bad to happen to me. And maybe I don't want others to notice, but it's more about health-related concerns, I would say. Strong attachment to specific interests or hobbies. Yes, for the most part. I don't like to, have a million different hobbies. I just tend to stick to a few of them. When I was younger, I enjoyed playing tennis, playing guitar. I don't do those kind of activities as much as I used to. But some stuff like watching tennis on TV or playing certain kind of video games, I do consistently. Difficulty managing transitions, like leaving the house, not as far as I'm aware of, so no. Avoidance of overwhelming tasks, I would say yes. That's something that does affect my neurodivergence. So if there's something that's frustrating me or driving me crazy, driving me nuts, I'll try my best to avoid it if I have that option. If I don't, then obviously I have to put up with it. And yeah, it's going to frustrate me no matter what, but it is what it is. High sensitivity to stress. Yeah, of course. Of course. That's part of the reason why I realize I'm neurodivergent. I notice like I have a lot of stress in my life and I try to investigate where it's just coming from, basically. So that's true. Fluctuating productivity. Yes, unfortunately, it is a problem. So there are some hours, some days where I'm incredibly productive, but there are, some days, even weeks and months where I'm not productive at all. Something I have to, try to be more consistent at. Reliance on coping strategies or tools. I do have a friend who is obsessed with smartphone apps. And computer apps as well. He uses them for all kinds of reasons. But when it comes to me, personally, I don't use too many. Like I have like an alarm clock app on my smartphone. That's something I use. And the rest of the apps or tools I use for the most part are just related to communication, like WhatsApp, Telegram, email, things of that nature. More like for interaction and communication. Feeling different from peers, yeah, of course. Most of my peers growing up, not all of them, but many of them I'd say were neurotypical or normies, as we sometimes say. And I did notice some differences. It wasn't really a big deal for me at the time, though. I never made a big deal out of it. But as an adult today, it feels a little bit more significant than before, I would say. Chronic overwhelm in daily life. Yes, I'm an anxious person. I have a lot of stress. I do experience a bit of fatigue. So it's normal, it's natural. And to be honest with you, the chronic overwhelm is coming from many sources. So part of it is from my neurodivergence, my mental health, terrible news on TV, news of war, geopolitical news. When we had COVID back then, some years ago, I didn't like that, and just other kinds of external stressors in life, unemployment, periods of burnout. Yeah, I do experience this sometimes, and if it's that severe, I'll take longer naps. I'll go to bed earlier and try to sleep for 10 hours instead of 8 or something like that. Strong preference for autonomy or control over environment? Definitely, absolutely, certainly. So I'll give you a good example. Anytime my parents are visiting me, I notice that they like to change the placement of common household objects. So like they'll say, hey, why are your, kitchen knives with your forks and spoons? Why are all these, kitchen utensils, together? This is dangerous. Move your knives in this drawer. Or, something like scissors, nail clippers, a box of tissues, even anything you can possibly think of, like um, maybe stuff in my fridge. They'll just kind of rearrange them for their own convenience, either because they want to make it more organized and make my environment more cleaner, more clear. But I'd say they have good intent, but it drives me nuts. It drives me crazy because then when I need to find some of these items and objects, I simply can't. And they feel like they're lost. And then when I find them, I end up like rearranging most of them my way. That way, like I know where everything is. There's no doubt, there's no confusion. So yeah, this is something that affects me a lot. It's one of my pet peeves too. It's something I'm quite sensitive to. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy. This is kind of longer than I had expected. I kind of, became absorbed in this. I know this is not the list of every possible sign related to whether you're neurodivergent or not, but I just wanted to go over 100 of them and show that, I do relate to most of these, many of them. So yeah, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the future.